you have to ask yourself a question. Are you doing everything that you can do to make you better? And what do I mean by that? Let's say the guy you're competing with is taking 100 swings every night after practice, and you want to beat that guy out. You don't then necessarily say to yourself, oh, well, now I need to go take 100 swings a night, because is that what's best for you? Is that how you can be the best version of yourself? Maybe in order for you to be the best version of yourself, you need to take 25 swings, watch video, and get treatment. You know what I'm saying?
Welcome back to the Baseball Playground. I'm Matt McGowan, and we're here now with Zach Freeman, outstanding sophomore at Ohio State, right fielder, guy that came out of Southern California, Sierra Canyons program, which it's not Bronny James, it's baseball. You got Tom Usborne over there, a legend, coach USA Baseball, did a bunch of great things. We're so happy to have you, man. So pumped you're here.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy you're in town.
Yeah, anytime I could get on this podcast, I would love to. So
you're our guy.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So the great thing about you and having you on the podcast, and really the main reason we were like, we have to have Zach, is because you've kind of played in every region of the United States, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You went to Sierra Canyon. You graduated from Sierra Canyon under Tom Usborne, Jerry Royster, huge, big time names in the baseball community. Then you go out to IMG because of COVID. Mm-hmm. So now you're at the post grad program at IMG Academy in Florida
under Joe Giordano.
Talk about that. Talk about that, because some kids are like, yeah, I want to do a post grad. Tell me about your experience, how it worked out.
So, I mean, obviously COVID was a major curveball, pun intended. And, going to IMG, it was just an amazing opportunity. And when that opportunity came across, my desk, I was like, oh, this is something I have to do. And then when I found out that Joe Giordano, the former Pitt head coach at Pitt, the most winningest coach in all of Pitt history, when I found out that he was going to be the head coach of the post-grad program, I was ecstatic, and I knew that was going to be the closest thing to, college level, besides going to like maybe a JUCO or something. And so I just couldn't pass up that opportunity, and getting to be at IMG and work in all those amazing facilities and be in Florida with great weather, it was just an amazing opportunity. And I can't thank IMG enough, and I can't thank Joe Giordano enough for preparing me for the next level and keeping my game at the highest level.
It's also one of those things where your parents obviously allowed you to go, which is an amazing thing. Parents understanding, hey, this is my dream, I want to play at the next level. Talk about the tiers of IMG Academy, because I understand there are tiers. There's like a team that's the highest level, the national team, and then there's teams underneath, but they're all still getting a ton of day-to-day work and exposure. It doesn't really... Does it matter what team you're on, or does it kind of...
I think it definitely does matter what team you're on, because certain teams get a lot more exposure than others. I think a lot of kids there are kids that don't necessarily have the talent, but they have the resources. And, they have parents who love them very much and believe in them a lot, and, send them to an academy that will make them the best versions of themselves. And it does, but sometimes that's just not enough. I think something with the post-grad program is they had originally talked about doing an A team and a B team, and they kind of did. They didn't say that. But one of the things that happened is a lot of parents were complaining. You're getting a lot of parents that are paying a lot of money.
Absolutely.
But then you're also getting parents who aren't really paying any money. So you're getting parents that are paying a lot of money, and they're like, I'm paying all this money for my kid to be on the B team and not get exposure. So, that's a big thing. But to circle back to what was the main point that you wanted me to cover?
Yeah, no, just how the different teams and the different levels, get more exposure, right? Like you said, the A team gets more exposure than maybe the B team. Right. Not saying that the B team has maybe less talent. It's just, hey, some of the better guys are on the A team, and that's how it works. And I think that's how it works in all the way down to the youth level, right? Like travel baseball, like there's an A team and there's a B team for certain organizations. That's just the way it works.
And for example, I mean, on the national team, which is the highest level high school team, I was post grad, so it was a completely separate thing. Like I couldn't play on the national team if I wanted to. You had Elijah Green, you had Tommy Tanks, you had James Wood, you had Jackson Ferris, pitcher for the Cubs now, and you had another Arkansas commit who I think ended up getting drafted as well. But the thing about baseball is when you get scouts going to see other guys, and then you stand out because you did something, they're like, oh, who's that dude? Like, we need to get that guy on our radar. Or, oh, that dude's on the same field as him? Oh, he's on that team for a reason,
100%.
And I can't tell you how many times that's happened for me. So I got the opportunity to play for the SoCal Giants, as you know, with the Fix, an amazing program. And I would say one of the best things about that program is the talent. And because there was so much talent on that team, you knew that there was going to be scouts at the game. Maybe they weren't coming to see me, but they were coming to see somebody.
Yeah.
And I made sure that when scouts were there to see somebody else, they noticed me. And I think the thing about me is I always found a way to get my foot in the door somehow. And once I got my foot in the door, you weren't going to be able to close it on me.
No, absolutely.
And so that's what I always found a way to do.
Well, I mean, you've done it at every level, right? You play SoCal baseball in high school. You go to Florida at IMG, and then you commit to San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, you had like 7 walk-off wins, or whatever it may be. It was unbelievable. I mean, you were the guy. You won a ton of games for him offensively. As a freshman, you get in the transfer portal, and Ohio State's the where you go, and OH,
IO.
Absolutely. So talk to us about that process of like, hey, I'm leaving this program. The coaches, there was a coaching situation that happened. You leave that program. Why Ohio State, and how did the transfer portal kind of present itself?
Yeah, so there's obviously an interesting situation at San Francisco. It wasn't necessarily the right fit for me. And then when I had the opportunity to hop in the transfer portal, which was actually in the middle of the season, which most guys don't get to do, I was not only able to get into the transfer portal, but I was able to be in the portal and still play at the same time while we had an interim head coach. And, once I got in the portal and I was able to play, it allowed me to showcase my skills during season and still have coaches reach out to me. And then not just that, but when I left to go play summer ball in the Appy League in Elizabethton, Tennessee for the River Riders, which was, an experience in itself, amazing experience. I had some schools reach out to me, and, once Ohio State reached out to me, it was like an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. I had already been all the way across the country being in Florida, so it didn't scare me to go to the Midwest, and especially not at Ohio State. And knowing that Bill Mosiello, our head coach, who is a California guy, who's been at TCU who was at TCU for a while, won a lot of games there. To hear that he was going to Ohio State and to hear what he was trying to accomplish and build at Ohio State, I just wanted to be a part of that, and I wanted to help him accomplish that. And it was just an amazing opportunity.
No, absolutely. It's the right choice, right? I mean, it's a place where you're going to go. You're going to have an opportunity to play and do what's best for you. What is the difference between West Coast, Midwest, and East Coast? Is there a big difference? Is there a drop-off? When I played, the pitching was obviously different. I mean, at the high school level, we're seeing, especially the league you were in high school, it's a lot of plus arms, and then you get to that, some places, certain areas in the country that just don't have those arms. So tell us the difference, if you even see a difference or things like that.
Yeah, a lot of guys are going to hate me for saying this, but I don't care. California has the best talent.
Like, statistically speaking,
I believe that. I mean, it's also numbers, so there's a lot more people in Cali, but SoCal in particular, I mean, there's just so much talent. There's so many talented schools out here, and I would say, being able to play in Florida, Ohio, Tennessee, California, and being around kids that are from everywhere, it's just the depth in California is different. And I would say the style of baseball on the West Coast, I think, is a little more attention to detail, and a lot of coaches pay more attention to detail. The bunt game, the base running style, just little things. And I would say in other places I've been, it's more kind of like, this dude hits bombs.
Yeah,
this,
you can get away with a 3-run home run and things like that. I feel the exact same way.
Or at practice, it's BP, ground balls, and then, we're out of there. Whereas on the West Coast, it's like, all right, bunt defense, we're practicing bunting for an hour, and you're like, what?
Yeah,
like,
pin packages.
Yeah, right. And because I'm from Southern California, I've been used to that my whole life, and that's how my coach at Ohio State runs things, because he is a California guy. And my staff is also West Coast guys as well, which, I like. I've been used to that my whole life, and to be fair, like, I don't actually really mind either way. At the end of the day, that's my coach, and I listen to what they have to say, and I do my best to accomplish whatever it is that they're asking of me at that.
Whatever
moment.
the objective is,
Yeah,
let's get it done.
Right.
Talk to us about the day life at Ohio State. I mean, That's a school that I think every kid in the Midwest, especially every kid in Ohio, wants to go to.
Yeah.
And you're lucky enough to be there. Talk to us about, the day in, day out process.
I mean, the day in, day out, it's a grind, but I love it. And I wouldn't change it for the world, because I know that however many years from now, when I'm done playing baseball, I'm going to look back and be like, damn, I'm so glad I got to be able to do that. So, we got our weights early in the morning. You wake up 5 a.m., get to weights. After weights, we actually have an athlete's cafeteria, which is amazing. Free food, all you can eat. So
tough.
Yeah. So after we lift, we go eat. Then after that, you usually head to class. After class, you get some treatment. After treatment, you head to practice. And then after practice, you'll probably get some more treatment. Which is the right thing to do, but sometimes guys skip. I even skip not skip, but sometimes I don't go if my body's feeling right. And the atmosphere at Ohio State is just unparalleled. Like, you cannot compare it to anything. It's a big-time football school, but it's a big-time athletic school, and it's just a big-time school. It has 60,000 undergrad, which I think the only other school that has that many is ASU, and that's on a spread-out campus. So
yeah,
it's unbelievable. And to take it back to San Francisco, my freshman year when I was there, San Francisco is a small school. It's maybe about 10,000 people, and it's in a city where people aren't walking around in USF Dons gear. They're walking around in Golden State Warriors gear or 49ers gear or something like that. And so I didn't really get, that college experience when I was there. Whereas at Ohio State, I mean, you land in the airport, as soon as you take a step off the airport, you see Ohio State this, Ohio State that. That's what you're in Columbus for, is Ohio State, the Ohio State. And, you just can't take that atmosphere for granted, and being able to walk around in your varsity jacket, and you got little kids looking at you wanting to take a picture, it's just an amazing thing. And one thing that my head coach says most yellow is, he says, the jersey never comes off. And I believe that wherever you go, you always got that jersey on your back, and you need to represent it well. And I take pride in that, because I believe that my last name is always on my back, and I want to make my family proud in whatever it is that I do. So, I really take that to heart, and I take pride in that, and my teammates do as well. And, there's just nothing like, kids coming up to you asking for pictures, or, the dads always like, oh, how'd you get there? Like, my son's pretty good too. It has its moments, but I'd rather that than nothing, right? So,
absolutely.
It's just an amazing experience, and the day-to-day life is something that I wouldn't trade.
I bet walking down High Street is always a blast.
High Street's a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you've had Ohio State experiences. You've had some fantastic coaches. We talk about parents making sure that their kids are prepared for the college experience or the next level, whatever level that may be. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give that kid who's maybe a sophomore or junior that really doesn't know where he fits? What do you think he needs to do? Obviously weights and things like that, but mindset wise, what do you think?
You need to have fun. That's the number one. I forget to have fun. Baseball sometimes is not fun. And I think that a lot of kids get so stressed and what's next, this isn't going well for me, because baseball is a game of failure. 70% of the time, if you're a Hall of Famer, you're not going to get a hit. So it's tough. But you need to remember to have fun, and you need to find fun in the game somehow, because otherwise it's going to get real old real fast. And something that was hard for me when I was young is I was always undersized, a lot of times I was looked over, but I was always very talented. And that was really hard coming up, because I felt so much better than guys, but they were just bigger than me. So it didn't matter if my swing was better than them. They were going to hit the ball further than me.
Yeah.
And so that was really frustrating. But, I was fortunate enough to have, parents and a dad that, instilled confidence in me at a very young age, and, stayed with me throughout my entire life, that it didn't matter what anybody else said. I always felt like I was the best, and I was going to be the best in whatever it is that I was doing. But, for young guys out there, you have to be dedicated, and it cannot stop. When you're not working out, somebody else is.
Absolutely.
When you're not thinking about baseball, somebody else is. When you're at the plate taking BP and you're taking those last two swings off, somebody else isn't. And that person's going to take your spot. And I don't like to work out. I don't like doing that stuff, but I do it every single day, and I do it as hard as I can, because when I'm not doing it, somebody else is, and that guy's going to take my job. So is it fun for me to get up at 5 a.m. and go lift? No, it's not. But I do it, and I do it damn good too.
Yeah.
And you just have to be able to not give yourself an ultimatum. There is no option. It's not an option. It's you have to. There's no optional weights. You have to. So that's, stuff like that. When coaches say, oh, there's optional this. It's not optional. You need to go. Put your hat on right. Make sure your shirt's tucked in. Do that stuff. And, I'm a little loose when it comes to certain things. Maybe you have a little bit of swag on the field. Okay, this. But make sure your stuff is proper. Don't look sloppy on the field. Make sure you carry yourself right. Don't have your dad carrying your cleats, out of the car.
Annoying.
Don't do that stuff.
Handing a Gatorade to you at a game. Oh my God.
I know moms, they don't listen, but they're gonna try to hand you that Gatorade while you're in the dugout. Don't take it.
Yeah.
Or mom, go. Yeah. Or tell them before the game, mom, do not drop a Gatorade, or pack yourself a Gatorade before.
Makes sense.
But yeah, so my advice to young guys is, don't give yourself an ultimatum. You need to grind, even if you don't like it. If baseball is what you want to do, that's what you need to do. I want to play professional baseball, and I believe I can. And no, it's not fun for me to work out every single day, but it's fun being successful in baseball.
Absolutely.
And I want to do what it takes to get there.
I think you brought up a great point. You say that you wear the jersey on and off the field. The only way that jersey is going to help your team be successful is you doing the weight room, you doing all those things. Right. As a coach, I feel bad sometimes because, and I tell the kids this in the beginning of the year, and I tell the parents this in our meetings, I'm not easy to play for. Right. I want to win, and there's a standard there, and if you're not a part of this standard, then we're just not going to – it's not going to be a fun experience. No. But I think you brought up a great point. Yes, is the weight room tough, and the weight room, something that maybe a lot of kids don't want to do? You're right. But if you can find a way to compete with others and make it fun – it's going to give you a reason to want to come up every day and get it done and things like that.
Yeah, and you actually bring it – sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
You bring a great point about being competitive. That's one thing that you can't teach. You can't teach being competitive. I'm the most competitive person there is.
Absolutely.
I'm the most competitive person there is. So somebody else is getting up to work out. I want to work out too. He's doing 8 reps. I want to do 9. And I'll keep going with somebody. And I think if you don't have that competitive drive, then why are you playing?
But I also feel like you have that competitive drive because you have a brother that was competitive.
Yeah.
You have a younger sister. You have a twin who is a hell of an athlete as well. Yeah. So, growing up in a competitive atmosphere, I bet your dad was like, "Yeah, let's see. Hey, you got to hang. You got to figure it out."
You seen Deion Sanders ranking his kids? Yeah. My dad was like, "Well, your sister's doing this." And of course, it didn't matter what I would do. I was always at the bottom because he just always was trying to, light that fire.
Absolutely.
Trying to get me to, push myself, which was extremely frustrating, and he still does it now. And it's probably,
hey, shout out to Rudy. Yeah. Shout out.
He still does it now, which definitely gets on my nerves. But it all has good intentions, and it's the reason why I am where I am today.
Well, it's the reason why all of you guys are very successful, right? Everyone in your family. We talk about baseball being a game of failure, as you said. How or what is the best way you would tell a young player to deal with failure? Because again, a lot of parents have their cameras up on the backstop. They're watching, strikeout, and you hear it in the video. That's the worst part. Like the parents like, oh God, another strikeout. Why do I pay for this hitting coach? It's like, hey, it happens. That's what this game is about. Yeah. So what would advice or what would you tell a parent or maybe a kid like, hey, it's okay to fail. That's what this game is about.
I would tell a kid, don't be so quick to change. Sometimes when you're not being successful or when you're not as successful as you want to be, it's not because your hands are too low. It's not because your hands are too high. It's not because your leg is coming at the wrong time. Sometimes that is.
Sure.
But sometimes you're just picking the wrong pitches.
Absolutely.
You're just not swinging at the right pitches, or you just started a little too late. A lot of people are quick to like, I need to change my whole swing. No, you don't. Have you even tried? Have you even looked at what pitches you're swinging at? Are you swinging at strikes? When you need to go to the drawing board and fix something is when you're letting balls go by and you're swinging at strikes, and every strike you swing at is your pitch.
Yeah.
So if you're getting your pitch and you're not hitting it where you want to go, now you can be like, okay, I need to fix something. And it is very frustrating when you're not being successful. Man, I can't even tell you how many times as a kid I went to the baseball field and, I sucked. Sucked. Like I'm talking about bad. I grew up, and football was my favorite sport. Football I didn't have to think. I would just go. And I was the best player. And I didn't have to think about anything. I would just run hard, and I was competitive.
Yeah, and you're athletic.
And I was athletic,
and
so I didn't have to think about anything. And then I would get on the baseball field where I wanted to be a shortstop, so I wanted to play. And you had to think and do all this stuff, and I would make the play, but I might throw it to the wrong base. And, I got coaches, my dad, like, what are you doing? And, so that was really frustrating, kind of making that transition from football to baseball. And it was hard, especially because I had a dad who, would really get on me a lot. But it made me stronger. But, one thing that he always did do is he always reminded me that I was the best and that there's nobody better, and that's why he's getting on me. And if he didn't think I couldn't do it, if he didn't think I could do it, he wouldn't be getting on me that way. And I think it's always important for parents to make sure that kids know why you're saying what you're saying. And, sometimes you want to lay off them a little bit because it is tough, But I remember going to Arizona and, your parents pay for a hotel, they pay for the flight to get out there, or they drive 8 hours, which is terrible also. And then I remember I went to Arizona and I was garbage. I was garbage. My dad's like, I just took you to Arizona, paid all this money for this? And so, that was really hard because, I don't want to suck.
You don't want to let anyone down, right? And I feel like that's some things that some kids, have to deal with is they feel like they're letting their parents down or things like that. And that's not the case, right? Like you're trying your best. No one goes up there being like, you know what? I'm going to take these 3 pitches. I'm going to strike out. I'm going to go sit back down. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's parents. That's just not how it is.
Right,
so, no, you're absolutely right. I think, parents do put pressure because you do go to these big tournaments. You do, spend a lot of money. And that's kind of just the state we're in the baseball world. Every organization is a travel organization pretty much. And everyone wants to play in the biggest tournaments. Yeah. But understand that the kids are going to fail. Don't be so quick to change. Allow your child to be a kid. And, I think you hit the nail on the head. You said your dad always instilled that confidence in you, even if you had a bad day. He knew that your potential and your growth. And it's because he was probably realistic, right? I mean, I think parents have to be realistic with the skill set. I mean,
100%.
You're obviously where you're at because you could play baseball. Right. Your worst day is probably not as bad as you really think it was.
Right.
So, it's one of those things where I think the parents have to be realistic, players have to be realistic, and if they put the work in, they're going to see the effort and the potential that they have. Mm-hmm. So, couple other questions I want to ask you. Sorry to cut you off earlier, but you talk about, being competitive and how it's instilled in you. How does somebody get a competitive edge at the college level? Is it spending more time in the cages? Is it getting in the mind of the person you're competing against and knowing like, hey man, like you might like this job, but this is my job and you're not taking it from me.
Right.
How would you explain that process of it? Because you've been at 2 different schools.
Yeah.
So how has that worked?
I'm a firm believer in there's no one way to do something. There's a million different ways. What might work for me might not work for you.
Sure.
And I think coaches who, tell their players, like, this is how you have to do it, this is how you be successful, I see where they're coming from, but I don't think that's necessarily true for everyone. I think everyone has their own process. So when you talk about being competitive, you have to ask yourself a question. Are you doing everything that you can do to make you better? And what do I mean by that? Let's say the guy you're competing with is taking 100 swings every night after practice, and you want to beat that guy out. You don't then necessarily say to yourself, oh, well, now I need to go take 100 swings a night, because is that what's best for you? Is that how you can be the best version of yourself? Maybe in order for you to be the best version of yourself, you need to take 25 swings, watch video, and get treatment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure, absolutely. So, analyze your body, make sure that you're right, things like that.
So you can't just do what somebody else is doing because they're doing it and you guys want the same job. That's not how it works. It's figure out what works for you and figure out how you can do everything it is that you need to do personally to be the best version of yourself. So I would say that's how you be competitive.
Zach, this has been an amazing podcast. You've been absolutely amazing. I'm so pumped that you're here. I got my last 3 questions. They're the toughest ones of the entire interview. Okay. So, get ready to go. It's called the last 3 outs. Okay. All right. Favorite food?
My favorite food? Yeah, that's a really hard question. Man. I gotta say steak, probably.
Absolutely.
I mean, I have so many because I'm a big foodie, but you can't beat a ribeye.
Well, it sounds like I should be a big foodie if I went to Ohio State and had an athletic cafeteria
they do
all you can eat.
Shout out to Ohio State's cafeteria. It's called The Nest. They do a great job.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Ohio State, can we get some food over here next time? Jesus. Second question, favorite movie?
The Birth of a Nation. It's about Nat Turner.
Interesting.
For you guys who don't know who Nat Turner is, go look him up.
Yeah, I got to check that out. All right, last one. Favorite baseball player? Alive, dead?
It's got to be Bo Jackson.
Love it. Yeah.
Got to be Bo Jackson.
Makes sense, right? You like football and baseball?
Yeah. I love Bo Jackson.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Zach, thank you so much. I mean, you've been absolutely amazing. I'm so pumped for this year for you. Yep. Coming back and ready to rock and roll in right field at Ohio State. I'm telling you, man, Big Ten better watch out.
Yep.
Oh, one more thing. What do you think about the Big Ten with adding USC, UCLA, and those teams?
Obviously, it's great because, one more excuse to come home. But I really don't like what the NCAA is doing with, all of the,
super teams or super PACs.
I really like the geography of the conferences, and I think it's kind of cool to be able to say, well, okay, the West Coast is better, like Pac-12 is better, because when you think Pac-12, you think West Coast. When you think SEC, you think South. When you think Big Ten, you think Midwest.
Absolutely.
And now you can't even say that. Like it's just kind of all over the place. But at the end of the day, the NCAA is a business, and they'll make more money in what they're doing. So I can't hate on them for doing it, because if I was in their position, I'd probably do the same thing if I was looking at the numbers. So
I look at it in a way that everyone's looking at this as like a football, like, oh, it's great for football. I think it's awesome for baseball, because I'm going to get to watch, a guy from Texas play against LSU.
That's true.
And I'm going to watch Ohio State play against UCLA and Michigan versus USC.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to really get to find out. That top 10 you're really going to know who the top 10 teams
That's
are
true.
because it's going to be the best teams have to play each other.
And there you go. You bring up a great point. This is why guys like me don't make those decisions because I didn't even think of that.
Well, you know what? NCAA should hire me, and then I'll help them make those decisions. But Zach, you've been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. We're definitely going to have you on again.
Yep.
All right. Maybe after maybe the College World Series. What do you think? After you guys make it and dominate out there?
Of course.
Sounds like a plan.
Yep.
Zach, thank you so much.
I'm Zach Freeman, outfielder at The Ohio State University. Go like, follow, and subscribe to the Baseball Playground.